Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Geek Addicts, the weekly pop culture podcast that we host over on the GNC Podcast Network. Once again, I am Bill, and this is Matt. How you doing, Matt?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Another week recovering from a cold.
Yeah, well, at
Uh,
least it's almost Thanksgiving.
yeah, it is. And next week, I only got 3 days I got to work.
Mm,
Got to see if they might let us out early on Wednesday. That would be nice.
that would be
But
pretty cool.
other than that, it's going to be like the most pointless, like slow week of work ever. Like where everyone's going to be clearly coasting the entire way.
Yeah, half the
So
people are going to take the days off that would normally be there anyway.
yeah. I would, but I used all my vacation time for Christmas this year, so I gotta come in for these 3 days. But it'll be worth it at the end of the year. So
Yeah, well, that's the better time to use it anyway, because then you get the days you already get off for Christmas and then the days you get off for New Year's. So,
yeah, it's gonna end up being like the way I lined it up. It's gonna be like a 10-day week like vacation, so can't complain there.
not bad. I'm going to be doing one of those in late January, I believe. So,
That's good.
yeah, taking Xander down to Universal.
Nice.
Yeah. I just can't let him listen to this episode until Christmas because it's a secret.
I gotcha. Well, it'll be early December's when this one comes out, so he'll only have to wait a couple weeks.
Yeah, well, I mean, I suggested the topic specifically because of when it'd be coming out, because I believe it'd be coming out right around the time of the live action. So,
Within a few weeks, anyways. And for those who don't know, our topic for this episode is actually Yu Yu Hakusho.
yes, one of my all times.
It's a good one. I only discovered it somewhat recently, but it made my top 20. So that's 25, so that's a good sign.
I was very happy when I saw that.
Actually, it made my first top 25 too, but that was a little bit of a stretch the first time around.
hmm
It was like I think it was close to top 10 the second time around. Me and Alex did our top 25 lists.
I thought it was in your top 10. Wasn't it like number 9 or
I,
something?
I'll have to relook at the list because it changes like every week. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm literally already in the process of, because I know inevitably we're going to end up doing another roundtable or a top 25 list at some point. I'm already anticipating massive changes to my list again. So
Yeah, well, that's one of those things. Is it's always fluctuating. You're always watching new stuff. Things get shuffled around. Sometimes you realize that a show you really liked before it doesn't, have the same kind of staying power as other shows.
yeah, like I haven't had Jujutsu Kaisen on any of my lists, and I'm pretty sure that's going to end up on my list pretty soon because that's a really good one.
I still need to catch up on the second season.
Yeah, I mean I'm only like 14 episodes into it because I stopped where the dub was left off at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I watched that first little mini arc of season 2, and I think that was all there was at the time. So I just left it there. I'm just gonna let the rest of the season play out before I continue it up again. So
yeah. I won't spoil anything, but holy shit, it gets intense.
yeah, well, I've been seeing a lot of Gojo memes, so nothing spoiled, but
Yeah,
they're
it's kind
spoiled.
of hard. It's kind of hard to dodge freaking spoilers nowadays. Like I always joke, but I find them in the freaking Formula One subreddits all the time. It's ridiculous.
Fuck, that's weird.
Yeah, when you get spoilers for Oshinoko in a racing subreddit, that's when you know like the world has gone completely weeb.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh yeah,
Um,
but
oh, did you hear that? Before we jump into the topic, did you hear that the Sandland movie is going to be on Disney Plus of all things?
yeah, that's interesting. I
Yeah,
guess if they bought the rights and they're really pushing their anime thing now because I mean they're doing Bleach the Thousand Year Blood War right now.
yeah, but that's only on Hulu. So I figured, like, even if Disney had the rights, it would be on Hulu rather than Disney Plus. I don't
So
know if
it's I
Disney
believe
Plus is trying to revamp it or something, but
I think Disney is like gonna end up absorbing Hulu because
Mhm.
I noticed recently I was browsing through Disney Plus and suddenly like we've got like home improvements on there now, like all sorts of weird stuff that like wasn't there before. Like so I
Wow.
think they're slowly migrating stuff over to Disney Plus.
I mean, I don't know why they didn't just do that in the first place, but
Yeah, I get the feeling Hulu is also going to end up being like Viz's home for anime pretty soon.
hmm Well, I mean,
'Cause,
Hulu already has the best selection out of like the mainstream streamings.
yeah, I mean, because Paramount's got like nothing. HBO's got the Ghibli stuff. That's really about
Yeah.
it.
HBO used to have more. Like the Kenshin DVDs that you just bought, that dub was on HBO a while ago. And there was a few others. I think Doctor Stone and maybe Black Clover were on there for a while. I know that there was some, but now they just got rid of them all, and it's all just Ghibli.
Yeah, it's when they transferred over to just calling it Max. They like they added a bunch of stuff, but they also got rid of a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
because Babylon 5's not on there anymore, which sucks because it's like great now the only way to watch it is the DVDs again.
yeah. Oh, I think I saw an ad today. Is High Dive shutting down?
Outside of the US.
Oh, okay.
It's only in certain areas. I have a strong feeling it's basically they're cutting off all the areas that don't really use it or they don't pay licensing fees or something. Basically they're just saving server space, it sounds like.
I gotcha.
It's not if you're a US resident though, it's not going to affect us anytime soon.
Hey, I was gonna say a lot of the guys in the Discord use High Dives. That's gonna suck for them if that happened, but that's good.
I mean, I'm a frequent user of High Dive because it's the only place to watch Sentai stuff.
Fair enough.
Yep. Yeah, other than that though, nothing too crazy. Oh yeah, that Rurouni Kenshin DVD. I'm like 50% convinced is possibly a bootleg.
That I'm not surprised. Is it
Not
at
so
least a
much-
decent quality one?
So it plays fine, sounds good. My big hint was when I opened up the season 1 disc, like CD case, not a single CD from season 1 was in it. They were all in the season 2 case.
Ah,
Like it was complete mismatch. Like the season 1 case had like season 2 and 3 discs.
well, as long as you got all the important episodes.
Yeah, I've sorted out. I sorted season 1 and 2 completely. I'll get to 3 when I get there. So
Well, the quality of bootlegs have definitely gone up over the years.
yeah, I'm a little concerned some of the discs might have damage that won't play, but I looked online and like you can get these box sets for like 50 a piece right now. So if I have to get a replacement, it's not gonna be that big of a hit.
Yeah, and like I told you before, you only really have to like the first like 2/3 of the show that's all you really need. Everything past that is all filler. So
I want to get through one watch with this dub so then I can just like ignore it, and then if I have to watch it again I can just deal with the Sony dub.
yeah,
Or maybe hopefully the Media Blasters dub is on somewhere else at some point.
yeah. Well, that was on Max or HBO Max back when it was that, and then it was on Crunchyroll. But then I guess the new one they got rid of the old one and only have the new one on Crunchyroll now. So
They probably lost the license to it, honestly.
which I did watch the first episode of that this past week, and it was good. I like what they did with it. The acting was good. The scripts were good.
Oh, did you see the actors are finally revealing themselves?
Yeah, with Howard Wang, I think he was.
So-
I actually first heard about him not through like anime or anything like that. He actually, back when I used to watch Team 4-Star's gaming channel, he just happened to be on one of their streams one day. Like he's one of their buddies, and he just came over, was sitting in on one of their streams. I didn't even know he was an actor until like he popped up on the Kenshin thing.
Most people don't, because a lot of people were like, "Who?" But then they all got points because they're all donating their proceeds to, I guess, children's charity. So that's nice, even though it's not really their responsibility. But
True. I mean, it's just a job, But what do you do?
I mean, it's like if anything, the production company that's making it should do something. But Japan, is different. At least
Yeah.
they're coming out now and actually saying something. We're not just leaving us in the dark.
Yeah, I thought it was really weird that they just didn't say anything about it at all. But
Yeah, it was strange. It's funny. It's going to be weird for me because I'm going to wait till I finish the original series until I watch the new one, which hopefully will have more episodes by then.
Mhm.
I was laughing though because I'm looking at the new voice cast and I'm like, it's going to be so weird not hearing like I'm only like 5 or 6 episodes into the original series, and it's going to be just weird not hearing Kenshin as Richard Costanza or Cancino, again, I think his name is.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because he's apparently in both dubs of it for the original
Is it
show.
really?
Yeah, he plays Kenshin in both. Everyone else is different though for some reason.
I didn't even realize that. So you've met Sanosuke in that so far, right?
Yeah, and he's I think he's Lex Lang.
Did he call him like what? How did he introduce himself? Because that was the big way that I knew that the dubs are different.
I honestly can't remember what does he say, and it might jog my memory.
Did he say his name was Zanbakuto, or did he say his sword was Zanbakuto?
I think he said the sword.
Okay, so you got the right one then.
Okay. I mean, there's a huge Media Blasters logo before it boots up, so I assume it's the right dub. But
All right, I just wanted to make sure that you weren't, because it wasn't even just like the dubbing and the acting and stuff. It was like the scripts of it were weird too.
yeah, the script sounds pretty good. Other than Kenshin makes some really fucking weird noises in this show.
Yeah, that's the one where he goes like that kind of thing.
Yeah, like every 5 seconds. Anytime Karu punches him in the head, which happens a lot.
Yeah, it does. But 90s anime, female character, so it's gonna happen.
A lot of slapstick. A lot of slapstick.
You have to let me know when you get to the episode where Yahiko finds a little girlfriend.
Okay. I'll probably watch more of it this weekend.
There's a funny scene with Kenshin and Sanosuke during that episode. I just like that. I found it humorous.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to read the manga too at some point because I want to see how different it is between the manga and the original anime.
Yeah, I still gotta get the rest of them. Real quick before we go into our topic, I just wanted to let you know I watched Komi Can't Communicate this week.
The full both season? Oh well, both parts.
Yeah, well, just whatever was on Netflix, the 24 episodes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it.
It's goofy. It ends right when it gets interesting, though.
Yeah, well, I like the goofy cast of characters. It's definitely fun. And there was a lot of really silly parts too. Like at one point they went to Universal, but it wasn't Universal. Yeah, and like they said something like they had like a candy shop in there, and they said it was like Honey Potter, Harry Dukes. It's like they're clearly like saying like Honey Dukes from Harry Potter, but they like jumbled up the words just so they wouldn't get copyright. Like,
I mean, this isn't really a spoiler because it's pretty known, but there's a later manga arc that's literally just Among Us.
That's hilarious.
There's an Among Us arc, and it is it's actually the next volume that comes out over here, so that's going to be interesting to see.
I hope that show continues because I was really enjoying it.
I hope it does too, because they literally end it off right when it gets to like the next major phase. Because what's fun is in the manga, because it ends at the end of their first year of high school, and then they cut to their second year. And then what's fun about the second year is Komi and Tadno move to a new class, and you get introduced to an entirely new cast of characters because they're in a different class this year.
Oh, geez. Well, at least they get to stay together.
Well, yeah. Yeah, the show would be very awkward if they weren't together.
True.
I hope that gets picked up again. Unfortunately, Netflix, it came out during the worst possible time for Netflix. And I believe the studio that makes it is also the studio that does Pokemon, which is also kind of it's hurting it in the sense that all the fun, basically all that studio is understaffed as it is, and I guess all their attention, goes to Pokemon.
Oh, well, I mean, that kind of makes sense. That's the cash cow.
Yep. And they killed off Ash. Well, got rid of him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 20 years is long enough.
Yep. Still 10 after 20 years.
Oh, no. He had 2 birthdays. He's 12 now.
I think those got retconned, though. I think he had the birthdays, but then like later seasons, he'd be like, I'm still 10. It'd be like,
which is ironic because just the sheer number of episodes, it would have been at least 3 years. If every episode was a day, which isn't the case because it's actually longer than that because there are some episodes where it takes place over multiple days. So theoretically, he should be at least 15 by now.
The Pokemon timeline makes no fucking sense, and it never will.
Yeah, well, maybe it's like Fairly Odd Parents, where like it was a secret wish that made everybody stop aging or something.
Yeah. See, if they wanted to be daring, they should make a true anime of Pokemon Adventures.
That's what I want. That would be the best option.
I think we should save that though for an eventual Pokemon Adventures discussion.
Absolutely, because I would definitely love to reread those and have episodes on that because it doesn't get enough attention and it definitely deserves it.
It's arguably the most interesting Pokemon subseries. So
it's more interesting than the story of any show or game or most of the movies that I've seen regarding Pokemon. So
yeah, that is true. But something that does have an interesting story is Yu Yu Hakusho.
Hey, segue.
So I felt both old and young moment when I was looking up a background on Yu Yu Hakusho.
Mm-hmm.
So, the manga was finished before it was before I was born. I'm assuming maybe you were born.
I think so.
It
came out in 90, right? Was when it came out.
Yep. So Yu Yu Hakusho debuted the manga in 1990, December 3rd, and it finished up in 94, July 25th.
Oh, so it ended I was 3 weeks old when it ended.
Okay. I wasn't even alive yet. And what's funny is the anime also ended before I was alive by 2 weeks because the anime ended in December 17th of 94.
Wow, it's crazy how that happens. We got it 10 years later than Japan did.
Yeah, it's weird because this show didn't come to the US till the early 2000s, and it was already ancient by that time.
Yeah, but it was still so I mean, just like Dragon Ball, it was so far beyond any of the stuff that we were used to for our cartoons and stuff.
Yeah, I remember because a lot of people that I talked to back in the day, because I knew about Yu Yu Hakusho, but I always was told that if you would watch Dragon Ball, you really didn't need to because it was basically the same thing. Which now that I've seen it, it's not exactly the same thing.
No, I mean that was the I guess, for lack of a better term, the dumbed down way that I would explain it to people and say, oh well, if you like Dragon Ball, you like this, but it's very different. Both in tone, in the amount of gore, the kind of humor they use, it's very, very different.
The only thing that's really similar is they occasionally have tournaments.
Yeah, and energy blasts, and even that is kind of few. There's only a couple characters that do that.
Yeah, it's funny too because this completely different studio too. Like Dragon Ball's toy animation, this was done by Studio Pirate, which is the same studio that does Naruto.
Which would make sense when you think about it, because I mean, I haven't really looked too far into it, but I have read a couple articles saying that apparently the Kishimoto was inspired by Yu Yu Hakusho, which obviously the whole spirit box thing, and supposedly the story is that the concepts for Naruto and Sasuke were based off of Kurama and Hiei.
That's actually pretty interesting.
I'll probably look into that more, but yeah, the first time I heard that, I was like, it made sense, but it still kind of blew my mind a little bit.
I guess to give a bit more backstory too. So the manga was written by Yoshihiro Togashi. I think that's how his name's pronounced.
Mm-hmm.
And the manga ran for 19 volumes, and the anime adaptation ran for 112 episodes. So this one's long, but not ungodly long.
Yeah, it's a reasonably long, I'd say.
Yeah. And it was famously dubbed and brought over by Funimation and early Funimation.
Yeah, I think it was one of the first big projects they did after Dragon Ball.
And it's got all it's got basically all the familiar faces coming in. Chris Sabat is right up front. Was this Justin Cook's first big role?
I think so. I mean,
because he was Raditz.
He was also Super Boo. I don't know when the Boo Saga aired over here. I don't know how the timing works, but I know he was Super Boo as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's actually this was the first thing that really made me kind of aware of voice acting and how actors will cross over, because obviously with as much Dragon Ball as I watched back in the day, I picked up on a lot of these voices. For instance, because Justin Cook also plays Dende, adult Dende, And
Oh,
so, and that voice is a lot more similar to Yusuke. So I picked up on that early too. Hiei obviously is
he
Android
is just
17 and
Android.
Pilaf, and
Chuck Huber has like 2 voices, and like it's basically his 17 voice.
yeah. So like, you know, I picked up on a lot of this stuff early on. I mean, was it
John Bugmeyer is Kurama.
yeah, that one's a little bit harder to pick up on because he definitely used a very different
His
tone of
range,
voice for him.
he's got his range is very impressive because he does a ton of voices like in different styles. Like because Chris Sabat's got an impressive range too, but his range, like you just recognize his voice because he's got a distinct voice.
Extremely, yeah.
Like his
But I think
Kuwabara just sounds like Vegeta if he had if he was like younger and nasally.
it sounds like Vegeta if he fused with Yajirobe.
Yeah, kind of.
But yeah, I think the biggest thing that really like opened me up to like the whole concept of voice actors being in multiple shows was Rando, because it was just straight up Future Trunks voice but evil.
Yeah, just Eric Vale.
Yeah.
Also, Botan is just clearly Chi-Chi.
Yeah, it's Chi-Chi with like maybe a slight British accent, but not quite.
It's Chi-Chi. It's like end of Dragon Ball Chi-Chi before like the stick got shoved up her ass and she never came out.
Yeah, right.
Like if Chi-Chi was like a teenage Valley girl, basically that's what Botan is.
Pretty much. So yeah, God, I can't even place when the first time I watched this. I know it was definitely on Toonami when I saw it first. At the time though, I think they had only gotten up to like midway through the Dark Tournament. So for a long time, that was as far as I had ever seen. And I'm pretty sure they had like a censored version that they played on Toonami back then.
Yeah.
So it was a lot more child friendly than what it really is.
Yeah, the Dark Tournament is properly titled because it is fucking dark.
Extremely. People die, or people and demons die a lot in that tournament, even if you're not participating.
Or they just get fucked up because, like, holy shit, like Kuwabara gets like fucking. You think he dies at one point, like.
Yeah, even a couple times, you know, when he gets messed up in the second round.
Yeah. Also, that like that the Dark Tournament arc is like both like the most entertaining and like infuriating like arc in that entire show.
Oh yeah, because it's like, you know, and rightly so. It is the best tournament of the show, and arguably one of the best tournaments in all of Shonen. But at the same time, it does drag. It is pretty.
It drags, and everybody there just sucks. Like, why is everyone such an asshole for no reason?
Yeah, well, at least there was a few gems in there. Like Chu is one of my favorites. Jin is awesome.
Like the handful of like characters that were like really nice, like fun and like entertaining were awesome. But then like the fucking announcer, I just wanted her to fucking die every time she appeared on screen.
What, the like Fox lady?
Yeah, that was just a fucking bitch for no reason.
I thought she was great personally.
Oh wait, no, I'm thinking of the one that replaces her later.
Oh, the fish one, yeah.
The Fox one was just kind of hilarious because she was like
super bloodthirsty.
She was bloodthirsty, and then halfway through, she just says "fuck this" and just leaves.
Pretty much. But I mean, at least she had like some degree of fairness. Like, you know, whenever the committee would be like, "Oh, you went over the time counter," she's like, "I did exactly what you guys told me to do. I'm doing my job. What are you talking about?"
Yeah, there was so much in that arc that like they'd finally overcome something, and then the fucking like committees are like, "Nah, no, you didn't." And I'm just like, for the love of God, I'm like. It got like to the point where by the end, when the arc finally ended, I was like, oh fucking thank God.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, there was some funny shit though in that whole scene. Like I think the most iconic like gif from that entire arc is the gif of Yusuke just beating the shit out of Keiko for no reason.
Yeah, just slapping her over and over again. That's one of my favorite ones out of the whole thing.
When that happened, me and Alex were watching it, I remember literally like Alex is just looking at the screen and then like she pauses and where she's just like, did that just happen? I was like, yep.
Well, hey, you know, he was justified. You know, she was catatonic, the place was collapsing, they needed to get the hell out. Like,
See, the slapping part is bad enough, but then like they zoom in on her face, just like getting bashed back and forth, and I'm like, wow, Japan was
Uh,
different.
it was, I don't know. I enjoyed it. It was funny. It's good for a chuckle after all that serious shit.
Yeah, it's funny going back to like the beginning of the anime, the opening it has probably one of like the most engaging openings to an anime I think I've seen in a while.
It definitely catches you off guard when you first start it.
Well, he dies in episode 1, is it?
Within the first like 10 seconds of the episode, you see the
Yeah.
ball go across the street, you hear the screech of the tires, and then there he is on the ground.
Yep. Yeah, that was
That
interesting because it you're not expecting that, and then it like immediately is like, oh, he's a ghost now.
I forget because I was the one who originally told you to watch it. Um, I did I tell you what the general like setup was, or did you go into it blind? I totally forget.
Um, well, because we watched the first like 12 episodes, I want to say, when I visited you at your you guys' original apartment way back.
That's right. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
we
we
watched
watched
it.
like the first like arc and a half or something.
Yeah, and then me and Alex watched it like started from the beginning again from scratch earlier this year for an anime swap, and that's when I
Mhm.
finally finished it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know why it took me so long. I think it was just one of those cases of like there was always just something else came up, and I needed a reason to just sit down and watch it.
Well, I think what it was you'd said you were gonna watch it earlier, and then I had discovered that you hadn't watched Full Metal Alchemist yet, so I said, no, you gotta watch that one first.
Right.
That one takes priority. As much as I love Yu Yu Hakusho, you gotta watch that one. So
That I think it's that because like I immediately like after that like because Full Metal Alchemist we watched the first 3 episodes and then I immediately watched episode 4 later that day and I was like, what the fuck?
yeah. Yeah. It definitely has that kind of beginning.
Hmm.
But so I gotta ask, what you and Alex watched that first episode? Did either of you shed a tear?
Um, I didn't because I knew it was going to happen. I don't know if Alex did.
Because that first episode gets me every time I've watched that first episode. God, it must have been 20 times now between doing full watch throughs or just starting to watch it or whatever, but like or seeing it on Tsunami. But every single time, man, I get so choked up on that first episode, seeing like the wake and everything.
The wake is pretty rough. Alex was more confused. Like she was like she didn't. She was so lost because like uh she doesn't watch a lot of older shows from what I've gathered. Well, she
Mhm.
watches some, but like this was like the first time she'd watched like one of these.
Yeah.
Um, she was more just kind of engaged in what was going on than anything. Um, I don't really show a lot of emotions when I watch stuff, so that might be why it didn't affect me that much. But
Well, I usually don't either, but there are some that just get me.
mm,
Like that particular scene at the wake. Weirdly enough, it's the Kuwabara part that gets me the most. Um, and towards the end of Full Metal always gets me. Like some shows just
mm,
get me like that. And maybe it's
yeah,
a combination of music and the tone and what's going on and stuff. Maybe it's just certain things about it, but every time, at least one tear.
I'll say Oshinoko got me earlier this year, like a few months ago. So
Yeah.
I do have
I,
somewhat of a soul.
yeah. My wife's always on my case, like, you never cry about anything. Like, you gotta watch this, and if you don't cry, you don't have a soul. I'm like, yeah, it just has to be right. It's gotta hit me in the feels. Not everything does.
It's like the Friends episode where like uh Chandler can't cry, and they literally are like, "You were dead inside." It's like I'm always like, "Word, I understand it."
I get it, man. Choke it down. So, out of the first arc, or the first season, I should say, like the whole Spirit Detective arc, which one of those little sections did you like the most? Like the whole like him trying to come back to life? Was it the 3 items? Was it the Genkai Tournament, the Saint Beasts. Which one caught you the most?
Probably Back to Life, just because it's the most immediately interesting. Because they introduce so many concepts in that one, and there's some pretty killer moments too.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole like one of my favorite scenes is like when he possesses Kuwabara and then like immediately uses
Yeah.
Kuwabara to talk to Keiko, and Keiko's like, "What the fuck?"
And he could only get her to know that, be convinced that it was him in the short amount of time he had left by grabbing her boobs.
Yeah, which was I forget. It's funny, like in modern anime, that doesn't phase me at all. But whenever that happens in like an older anime, I always kind of get like thrown for a loop because I'm like, wow, they were like this. Like Japan just doesn't care about a lot of things like that.
Yeah.
And like when it happens in like an older show, I'm always like, that happened on like the syndicated version over here, or did they cut that out?
No, I don't remember, honestly. I don't think so. Probably not. They cut a lot of stuff and done a lot of stuff down for the
Yeah,
syndicated run.
because Yusuke like grabs her boobs multiple times, but he also like lifts her skirt once, and I'm like Jesus, like this was definitely a Japanese show.
Yeah. And I thought I read the manga earlier this year, and I found it really weird that like they were okay with all that like lewd kind of stuff, but apparently him smoking a butt was a big deal. Because he was like chewing gum in that first episode instead of smoking a cigarette like he was in the manga. And I was like, that's odd.
That's better than editing it to a lollipop. Like that, I always found that worse.
Yeah, that's true. But
or replacing a gun with a boom mic.
Well, that's the thing is it wasn't even like a dub thing. It wasn't even like a westernization. It was just the Studio Pierrot themselves just for some reason didn't want him to smoke the cigarette. Which is weird because Chizuru is always smoking. So like, what's the difference?
I guess because he's a middle schooler, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. It's just sometimes these animators make weird choices.
Yeah, it's weird like that because it throws me off because that they're supposed to be middle schoolers and like the way that the anime artists draw things, like it's harder to tell ages sometimes.
Yeah.
Because you'd think Kuwabara would be older, but apparently he's like the same age as Yusuke.
Yeah, he's like the biggest one out of all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. Another part that I loved is like the whole like how he comes back to life. He's like he needs to get kissed by one of the ones he cares about most. And like I like the fact that Keiko fucks off on him because she's impatient and doesn't like notice his feet are glowing. Mm-hmm. And he's immediately like freaking out. So he's like trying to think like he thinks of his mom, but then she's drunk somewhere. So he's like, crap, can't do that. And then he immediately just thinks of Kuwabara. He ponders it for a minute and then he goes, nope.
I love the when Kuwabara is having the dream.
Yeah.
And it like censors the kiss in the show.
Yeah, I like that they went there. It was like, what?
Yeah, the humor in this show is just it's top notch 90s anime stuff. Like I love the humor in this show. Like it's one of my favorites by far for that reason.
The bromance between Yusuke and Kuwabara is the best part of the show.
Oh, easily. Like I say, that part with Kuwabara at the wake gets me every time.
One of the reasons why I think the final arc of this show is kind of lame is the fact that they wrote Kuwabara out.
Yeah, I definitely would have benefited from him.
I get he had no real reason to be there, but
yeah, well, they could have figured something out. I mean, I don't know. He became a hotshot high schooler anyway, so good for him.
I think it was more just the writer did not want to write that arc to begin with, and just kind of threw something together.
Yeah, well, he wanted to do Hunter x Hunter at that point.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, by that point, like the arc that the arc immediately before Three Kings honestly feels like the definitive end of this series. So
it easily could have been, and honestly, I would have been okay with it if it had been.
Yeah, mostly just because Three Kings feels like such a unnecessary addition to the story
in a lot of ways. But I mean, they definitely could have done it like OVAs or something. But it was good getting more background on the demon characters.
Yeah, the Hiei stuff I thought was interesting. Like that was probably the most interesting part of Three Kings.
I think that one was definitely the most needed thing out of that arc was a little bit more backstory and a little bit more understanding of Hiei's character.
Oh, yeah, we probably should have put a big spoiler wall up at the start of this, but I think they can figure that we're gonna spoil this thing by now.
Yeah, I mean, every time we do an episode of something like this, it's gonna be spoilers. I mean,
Yeah. To me, the most what the fuck thing was the whole Yusuke is partially a demon thing. I was like, what?
yeah, that was definitely very left field.
I just
I
felt
mean,
like
it was cool when it happened, but
it's cool, but it to me it felt like such an unnecessary addition.
yeah,
Also, I like how uh Kurama's like alternate form is just like Sashomaru.
yeah, pretty much.
Like I remember like watching this and like Alex is like, what the why is Sashomaru here all of a sudden? I'm like, I look at the screen, I'm like you're right. Holy shit. Like, why is he here?
Well, that just further, I don't remember if I said this on podcast or off, but it just goes to further my theory that Yu Yu Hakusho is the future of Inuyasha.
Yeah. It's funny too because a lot of people compare. They have similar styles, like stylistically, but like they're made by two different studios.
Hmm.
Because I think Inuyasha was done by Sunrise.
Okay. Well, I just meant like the in universe, like.
Well, yeah, because
that was one of the things. That was one of the things with Inuyasha that always kind of bugged me. It's like, where do the demons go? Where are they? And then it would kind of make sense, like, oh, like the god has decided to shut out the human world and the demon world. That made sense. So
yeah,
that's my headcanon. They're part of the same universe.
Yeah, honestly, I think Yashahime kind of ruins that canon, but people can pretend that doesn't exist. So
fair enough.
Going back to it now, like I'm trying to think. So before Dark Tournament, there was after the initial arc, there's an arc in between the initial arc and Dark Tournament, right?
There's multiple small arcs.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'm thinking.
Because there's the whole like 4.5, 5 episodes of him, going through the process of coming back to life.
Yeah,
and then we had like a 3 or 4 episode mini arc introducing Kurama and Hiei. Then there was the Genkai tournament. Which that one aired on Toonami a lot. They were always playing those episodes.
That's another thing the manga changed. Like at the end of the anime, it's implied that Genkai's still alive, but at the end of the manga, she's just straight up dead.
Yeah, that made me sad to read, but I mean, it makes sense.
I mean, she was old.
I did like the way that going off topic a little bit, but I did like the way that Yusuke just kind of pops up in the manga version. Like, I think it was like Kuwabara and Kurama were just walking down the street having a conversation, and Yusuke just walks up like he's just like talking to them like he's part of the conversation, and they don't even realize right away that he's right behind them. Like, it was funny.
Yeah. I will say the Three Kings unnecessary arc, but I did like the official ending of the anime and manga.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So Dark Tournament itself, like I think we kind of explained it's kind of all over the place. But also like so much shit fucking happens during this arc.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because they had set up the Tagoro brothers in the previous arc, which I think was another like really small one. Which is where you get introduced to Hiei's sister, and that becomes a whole separate.
Oh yeah, Yukina and like Kuwabara's weird crush on her.
Yeah, his thing for blue-haired women. Because before her, it was Botan he was obsessed with.
Yeah, that was kind of short-lived though, for whatever reason.
Yeah. I don't know why it just randomly popped in my head, but I just thought of that. There was a joke that was made. I think it was just in the dub, but at one point, Botan runs over to Yusuke, and she's like, "Yusuke, it's a huge emergency. Something's wrong." And he goes, "What? Did you run out of blue hair dye?" Yeah. and then what's his name? Koenma appears, and he goes, "No, that's not funny, Yusuke. That's our natural hair color."
Like we didn't even bring up Koenma much yet.
Yeah, he's an interesting character.
Yeah, I like how like the first half of the series he's like in the baby form, and then like the later half he just stays in the adult form because why not?
Yeah, he's baby Jesus.
Yeah, kind of.
Pretty much, he's the son of God. So.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because
I remember No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, because when he first shows up during the Dark Tournament in the adult form, it's like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, well, they kind of explain it a little bit more in the manga. But I thought it was really funny. I never really picked up on his name
Hmm.
Because in the anime, they, or at least in the dub version, they call his dad Yama, but in the manga it's Enma. So he's Enma Jr.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot more sense when you read it in the manga.
Yeah, that's true. I also like that Botan just kind of chills with them, even though she's supposed to be like a basically the Grim Reaper ferrying people to the underworld.
Yeah, right. Well, apparently there's more than one, so it's not that big a deal that she's doing that. But I think it's funny that she goes out of her way, like, to take any opportunity she can to wear like a school uniform.
Yeah, and just chill up there.
Yeah.
Because they need a jealousy arc with Keiko for no reason that goes nowhere.
Yeah, and eventually she's just like, "Oh, okay, so this is what's going on."
She gets over Botan real fast. It's like, she's just here.
I think once the series got to a certain point, they were just kind of like, "Yeah, Keiko's here, but
Yeah,
she's
so
over there."
Keiko. So after reading the manga, Keiko's in the manga a lot more than the series. Like the series just fucking like, oh, her, just put her over there and forget about her.
Yeah, I love that. Like, Yusuke comes back to life, and then he just instantly starts ditching her.
Yep. It's like, yeah.
He's like,
Well, I
"Thanks for
mean
the
that.
kiss, but I'm gonna go to the arcade with Kuwabara."
Yep. Oh, and then later, I'm gonna go fuck off in the underworld for like 3 years. Bye.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is the parallel why they compare it to Dragon Ball.
True. Well, I mean, once he finishes that bit, he does stick around. So I mean,
Yeah, at the end, at the final end.
no, we never see what kind of father he is.
Yeah,
So we'll leave that comparison. We'll put
yeah,
that
because
to the side.
I'm pretty sure Yu Yu Hakusho is in the category of animes that are, well, series that are just they're definitively, excuse me, definitively over, and there's no continuation.
You know what's wild is up until that time skip in the demon world, like the series, like the timeline of the show is only like 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, because they're like just starting. I think they're just at the end of middle school at the start of it,
Mm-hmm.
and then basically the time skip, it goes through their entire high. It's basically just like Inuyasha, where it like skips their entire high school period,
Yeah,
and then it ends with them graduated.
well, works out. And Yusuke ends up just opening up a ramen shop, so it's not like he needs a degree for that.
Yeah, yeah, it's all right because Kagome just said fuck it and went back to the feudal era.
Yeah, thanks for the useless diploma.
Pretty much. How she got that diploma, we'll never know with the amount of school she missed. But
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, who knows how the time travel thing works?
well,
Maybe no time passes on the other side. Who knows?
no, the excuse was her grandfather was always just making
Oh yeah, that's
excuses
right.
for her with like random outdated viruses and diseases
That's fucking funny.
because she had to pass her tests still, and that's why there was like a whole study arc of her studying for tests and Inuyasha annoying her.
It's been too long since I watched. I'm gonna have to do a rewatch of that soon.
I
But
need to too, but that's just because I rewatch it a lot.
fair enough. But yeah, coming back to Yu Yu Hakusho, I don't know what out of like the main group of four, which one do you tend to like the most?
Um, Probably Kuwabara.
Yeah, he's definitely very likable.
I mean, Yusuke is a good character, but he also has his dickish moments where you're kind of like, whatever. Kuwabara has a heart, and that's like basically his entire like shtick. He's not. He's basically he comes off as a dick, but he's actually just a softie.
Yeah, his obsession with kittens,
Yeah.
which is just
He
awesome.
he is just an asshole like the entire time. It's like, I mean, that's his thing, so you just kind of accept it. And
Yeah,
then
but he puts up a front, but he cares.
yeah, but he cares, but he's still a dick at the same
Yeah.
time.
Well, he has to care at least a little bit because Kuwabara is going to be his brother-in-law one day.
Yeah, that's kind of implied at the end of the manga.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of implied a little bit that what the hell is it? Yukina kind of knows. Like, she doesn't outright say it that he is her brother, but I think she kind of like insinuated a little bit.
I think she's figured it out. She's just not saying it because she respects him, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it comes to find out that it's actually a good thing that it never just came out in the open, because I don't know what kind of effect it would have had on Hiei if his Jigan would have killed him or something, but apparently that was part of the conditions for getting it.
Yeah, that's literally like going back and thinking about it. Like literally the only interesting thing about the Three Kings was Hiei's backstory.
Yeah, which is probably what my favorite backstory in the series. The whole thing with Yomi was just kind of like, I don't know. Did you pick up on like the weirdness of the timeline with the Yomi stuff? Like the timeline just didn't seem to fit with that, and I don't know.
It felt kind of like an asshole in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because it was like, oh, you left me for dead 500 years ago or whatever, and then you fucked off to the human world like right after. I'm like, but he's only been in the human world for like 15 years. Like, how does that work?
I'd say Toriyama forgot, but that doesn't work in this category.
No, no. I think Togashi has a pretty good concept of a lot of this stuff, but I think that was just an oversight. I think he just wanted to give Kurama something, and
Yeah,
that was
honestly.
just the best he could do.
Speaking of the characters, Kurama is the most. He's so nothing. That's like my problem with him. Like he's got some interesting ideas, but like once his like little introduction arc is over, I'm kind of just like whatever. Like he's just there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. I always kind of favored Kurama because I like the fact that he only actually has to resort to throwing a punch like twice in the series,
True. I think it's
because
more
he's just that fucking intelligent. Like he did. That's why That's why he and Yusuke never fight in the series, because no matter how strong Yusuke gets, Kurama would always win because he's just that smart.
yeah. Yeah. I'd have to watch it again probably. I just remember like he didn't leave a lot of a impression on me during my initial watch.
Yeah, well, everyone's got their favorites, and someone's always going to take the dive eventually. But
Yeah. Honestly, just think about it. Like Kuwabara, I think gets the most development out of the four.
oh, easily. Even though I definitely think he had a lot of wasted potential, because I think his particular power had the most potential, but just because he's such a goofball and he's like the comic relief, he doesn't utilize it right.
Yeah.
Which is why I was really frustrated with the fact that he wasn't in the Three Kings arc. I live right next to a rotary. You're just gonna have to get used to that.
Yeah. It happens.
But that's part of the reason why I was so frustrated with him not being in that arc, is because he had just unlocked that like dimension sword, like being able to cut through dimensions. Like that's an insanely powerful move, and like the kind of control that he eventually gets with the sword, being able to change its size. At one point he locked a sword. He had two swords, like one in each hand, and he locked it together.
Yeah.
Like there's all sorts of crazy shit he was able to do with it, and it just feels like it was wasted potential.
Yeah. I do like the fact that the main two weapons in this series are finger gun and flame sword.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
It's just fun. The finger gun I always just thought was fun. Like it's a nice twist on the whole energy beam like concept that a lot of animes have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think like the whole spirit detective thing kind of gets forgotten after like the first arc.
Yeah, kinda. I mean, well, the chapter Black arc was pretty much just one big, case, I guess you'd say. I did really like the almost. It wasn't really episodic because they were like like mini arcs, but I like those a lot, and especially because before he does the training for the tournament, he wins almost every major fight by pure luck.
Yeah.
Which is like a really interesting take, because usually in shonen it's not like that. It's not a luck thing. It's just they happen to be stronger, or they happen to outthink them or something. But it's like, no, I actually won this fight because I got some allergy stuck in my ears and I couldn't hear his chanting. Like,
Yeah.
like the crazy shit like that. And or when he fought the Takuro brothers the first time, it's just no, they actually just played dead. You didn't really win. Like,
Yep.
I love that kind of shit.
No, that's one of the things that the writer is really good at, like is like those kind of like false expectations and then like better payoffs in the end because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because like there was a bunch of moments like where he kind of played with like your thought process, and then later on he kind of brings it back and he's like, wait a minute, nope, this is what I was actually going for.
Mm-hmm. But so yeah, I think out of that first set of like Spirit Detective arcs, I have a soft spot for the Genkai tournament. Just because I watched that a lot as a kid and I liked Rando as a character. I feel like they could have used him a little bit more, but
yeah,
the whole concept of the villain just having like, dozens of techniques that they could use. That's why I felt like was it the beautiful Suzuka or whatever his name was? I feel like he was underutilized because he's like, oh, I got all these tricks and disguises, but I'm only going to use like 3 of them.
yeah. Now I remember like there was a whole bunch of them that just would pop up. Genkai herself is probably one of the more interesting characters in the entire show as well.
Oh yeah, especially when you start getting a little bit more insight on her relationship with Toguro and how they participated in the tournament 50 years earlier and stuff. Like that was really cool.
Mm.
Excuse me.
That's all good.
Look ahead.
I was gonna say like the Toguro fight. I still think is probably the most interesting fight in the show, arguably.
Which one?
The final one, him in the dark tournament.
Okay, yeah, that one was definitely good. And I like the whole fake out with Kuwabara.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the fake. He somehow got his heart ripped out and survived
Mm-hmm.
because of anime.
Well, I mean, it's I think revealed later on that Toguro was specifically trying not to kill him. He just wanted to make it look like he was killing him.
Yeah.
Which actually, going to that arc, that was the other moment that like really got me was when he was in the cave doing the spirit orb test. And he was like ready to give up, and you see Pooh come over, and he's trying to bring him water, but he keeps tripping and dropping the water, and like, that was such a heartwarming moment. Like,
who's the best character in the anime?
oh, easily. It's some of the best comedy moments too.
That was another great Alex moment where Alex is just like, did they really name it Pooh? I was just like, yep.
It's awesome.
Yep.
I love it. I want to get like a Pooh keychain or something.
I'm sure you can. They have to have one somewhere.
Yeah, maybe I'll get a Pooh plushie for my daughter for Christmas.
Nice.
If I can find one.
I was also gonna say, speaking of that Toguro fight, his fucking forms that he takes, they get so much more fucked up as they go on.
Oh yeah, I mean, eventually it comes like because when he's first introduced, he's just like, "Oh, I'm very untalented. All I can do is change the size of my muscles." And then when you actually see him go full out, I'm like, "Bro, you're doing a lot more than bulking up. Like that's way different. You like turn into a mountain that's just sucks souls or some shit." Like
It's like you're not even human anymore.
no, way beyond.
Also, he's voiced by Damon Clark, which just is like perfect for that kind of voice.
Oh yeah, because I think he played well the voice that I recognized the most, like comparing him to Dragon Ball, was Bora, which is the dad Native American character. But he also played Cell.
He was Cell, and he was also Scar, I believe, in the original Full Metal Alchemist. I'm not sure if the second one as well.
He wasn't in the second. They recast him for the second one. I'm not sure why, but
yeah.
But yeah, I did remember noticing that the first time I watched the first Full Metal series.
No, it really was. He was also future Gohan in History of Trunks.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Which is weird because going back and watching that, you're like, you're so used to Kyle Hubert that you're like, what the? It's like this is just weird.
Yeah, especially like because I watched that so much on my old VHS copy of it. So like I have a certain idea of the sound quality in my head, and then when I watch it on like my Blu-ray, I'm like, this sounds weird. Like,
oh yeah, Scar is J. Michael Tatum in Brotherhood.
Is he? I didn't even know that.
Huh.
No kidding.
It must have been he must have been busy or something. I don't know.
He could have been. I mean, I feel like probably after Full Metal was when around the time he like really started to blow up and was in a lot more stuff.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because it was around that time, like the late 2000s, early 2010s, when I started to hear that voice more often.
No, that's for sure.
Um,
So the following the Dark Tournament, that's when we get like probably one of the most mind trippy arcs.
oh yeah, the Chapter Black stuff.
Yeah, the freaking maze and shit and all that
Oh yeah,
stuff.
there was that the House of Four Dimensions or whatever it was.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
like I always remember like that's one of the few Kurama scenes I really remember where he's like playing like the board game with like the guy in there.
yeah, I love that part. I love that whole the like mind games that they were doing with each other. I
Yeah,
still wish we could have seen his face.
yeah, I know.
And not even the manga. We don't even see it in the manga.
I like the fact that they get to the end of it and then like Genkai's just up there and she's just yucking it up and she's like, "Oh yeah, this was all just a test."
Yeah, I was just fucking with you guys.
It's like because I can. It's like
Pretty
this is why
much.
everyone, it's like this is why everyone likes her.
I bet you guys wish you didn't wish me back.
Yeah, that was a good one. That arc was good, and then is it right after that we get into the final major arc or
What the Three Kings?
no, the arc before Three Kings, like the one that should have been the ending.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean the House of Four Dimensions was kind of like the introduction to the Chapter Black stuff, because when that ends, they say like, oh, like these guys came to me because they suddenly had awakened powers, and it's just revealed that the reason all these people's powers are awakening is because the hole to demon world is opening.
Yeah. No,
So
yeah,
it's
that
kind of like the lead into it.
yeah, I remember because like that the fight there, like that final fight against the who was the I'm terrible with names. Who was the final encounter that he has to face off with?
In Chapter Black,
Yeah.
that was Sensui.
Okay. Yep. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That fight is intense.
Oh yeah. Well, that was when it like really evolves into like this is some straight up DBZ shit.
Yeah. Yeah. He's also voiced by Robert McCollum, so adult Goten.
Oh, I never picked up on that. Maybe I
Yeah.
just been watching up GT.
I mean, he's barely in GT as it is. So
Yeah, it was a bummer, um, but no, I might be in like the minority where I think that the Chapter Black is actually the superior arc over Dark Tournament.
it was less infuriating.
Yeah. Because I don't know, a lot of the characters just kind of got me more. Like the crazy doctor was one of the ones that really stuck out in my mind.
Oh yeah, all the fights in Chapter Black are great.
And just the way that it all gets laid out, and how you eventually discover that Kuwabara was actually the key to unleashing Armageddon on the planet, and God, there's just so many different aspects. The powers were all crazy. The video game kid and
Yeah, the video game kid was great.
Gourmet.
I also liked how like during the final fight, Koenma like had like he revealed that the reason he has the pacifier is that he's secretly putting energy in it.
Yeah,
To
I
use it
love.
as a force field.
I love the part where he shows up at the cave entrance. He's talking to Botan. He's like, I had to get permission to take this out. He points the pacifier, and she's like, oh really? Oh, things are getting serious. And then he goes in, and like she's talking to Genkai about it, and she's like, so what does the pacifier do? Like, I don't fucking know. like,
Yeah.
like they're acting all serious about it. They have no clue what it means.
Oh man. This just reminded me of one of Alex's best quotes when watching the fucking anime was when Genkai died. Her response was Genkai is about to gen die. And I was like, Alex, I'm like, Alex, no. Stop.
Dad jokes for the win. Oh man, some of the jokes in that show, and that's the thing with this new like reanimation. I know we talked about it a little bit before, but the new reanimation that they're doing for Yu Yu Hakusho, I'm totally up for the idea of like throwing some modern animation into it and all that other stuff. But if they have to redub the whole thing in English, it's just not going to be the same because they're just not going to be able to use a lot of the lines that they did. They won't be able to get away with it.
Then there's no way they'd get the entire cast back.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Laura Bailey's automatically out. She's not going to come back for Keiko.
Yeah. I don't know if she has the same attachment to this role as she does to like Toru from Fruit Baskets.
Probably not, but Linda Young would definitely come back for it, and I'd be all for that.
Yeah, I think it's more like the some of the voices are just so aged now that I'm not sure they do still sound right.
Oh, and no, because what's his name? I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. The guy who was like every other demon in that show, and he was he played Captain Ginyu in the old DBZ dub.
Oh,
he died in the past couple of years, and he was like the voice of Yu Yu Hakusho. He was in like every scene.
What's one of the demons he played? So I can just look it up.
He was just like a bunch of the random demons that would just appear throughout the tournament, like in the audience and stuff. He was the original voice for Captain Ginyu, and I think he was the narrator of original Dragon Ball. It's Bruce something, I think, or Bryce Armstrong. Is that his name?
Oh, maybe Bryce Armstrong. That sounds right.
I think that was him. Yeah. But yeah, I was that's so disappointing. Because even if they do get it and dub it, he's not going to be in it, and that's automatically a huge hit.
Yep, he died 2020.
Oof, that's rough.
I was also going to say they'd have to recast. They unfortunately have to recast Bowie.
Oh yeah, he's Vic Mignogna.
Yep, that'd be another recast.
Yeah, I think he was also the weird like fisherman kid, which I think was based off of a Chinese fairy tale.
Yeah.
Actually, I think everybody in that team was based off of a Chinese fairy tale.
I think so.
Because they go a little bit more into detail about the origins of all of them in the manga.
So I have to ask, what did you think of the kind of like the ending to the Three Kings tournament where the complete like what's his name wins out of nowhere?
I mean, I liked that kind of upset win. It was more the fact that like we didn't get to see the rest of the tournament, even if like Yusuke was out for the whole rest of it and he lost and stuff. Like I still would have liked to see the fight.
It ends so abruptly. Like Yosuke gets knocked out, and then it's just like, oh yeah, it's over. This guy won. It's like
it's like you didn't win your fight, but you wore down Yomi so much that he lost the next fight. And then I think it was the same thing with Moroku. Like which was a big reveal in itself that she was a she, but like she lost her fight because like everybody who was fighting during that fight got inspired by them and they all went all out. So they were all tired for the next round. So
you can very much see this is where the author was like, I'm done. Fuck it. And just wrote the ending.
Yeah. I'm still glad we got it, but it is definitely the worst arc of the series.
Yeah. It's just so, it starts out pretty interesting and then immediately just takes a nosedive until like, this was so unnecessary.
It's pretty much once Ryzen dies is when it kind of like falls off.
Yeah, pretty much. And then we get back to like the post time skip with like them all back in the future, and it's like at least they're doing well. And then Yusuke just kind of pops up out of nowhere, and he's like, "Yo, I'm back."
Yeah, it's like right when Keiko's having her like, "I'm severing my bullshit with you. I'm done. I'm gonna go live my life," and he's just like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah, it's like, "Oh, you are." He's like, "Are you?" No, you're not.
He's like, "You sure about that?" I don't know. Looks like I have good timing.
I also just like the fact too that like Keiko is just hanging out with Kuwabara's sister and like Botan just regularly for no reason.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I feel like Botan wasn't really around too much after Yusuke went to Demon World.
I may I'm misremembering that.
Well, I know that they showed up, Botan, Koenma, and the ogre show up at or George. I'm sorry, George is his name.
George.
But they show up at the Three Kings tournament.
That's true.
dressed as Sailor Moon characters.
Yep. Yeah.
Which, ironically enough, was before they had even met. He hadn't even met his wife at that point.
Oh, well, that's just funny then.
Yeah, right? Like, isn't that weird how that worked out?
Maybe he was a fan. That's part. I don't know.
Well, I think they were. I think they were fans of each other's work at the time, and then they met later and got married. But that's just so funny how that happened.
Yep. Yeah, that pretty much covers the entire show. It's surprisingly short of a story when you actually break it down.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, like each one of like the big arcs at least has a lot of components to it. The shorter ones I feel like are more digestible, just as more of your idea of like classical stereotypical shonen series.
Yeah. This is a very shonen. In terms of shonen shows, this one is very shonen, I guess you could say.
Oh, extremely. But at the same time, there's a lot of like really adult stuff going on at the same time. Like, there's a lot of sex jokes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of those in Dragon Ball as well, though.
True, but I mean, in Dragon Ball, it's more like naked ladies or whatever. But like in Yu Yu Hakusho, they make overt like, oh, the birds and the bees, the flowers and the trees, like,
yeah,
which is an actual line from the dub.
Yep. Someone got paid to say that.
Yeah, Cynthia Crans specifically got paid to say it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's funny how the two characters she's most known for is Botan and Chi-Chi, and it's like, how different of characters could they be?
Oh, like night and day.
Yeah. Botan just a flirty witch, and then Chi-Chi is Chi-Chi.
Yeah.
Enough said.
So out of the just touching up a little bit throughout each arc. So all of the characters that were introduced in the Dark Tournament, which one did you like the best?
Dark Tournament?
Like whether it's a good guy or a bad guy, someone they befriend, someone they kill, whatever.
Honestly, I just liked Toguro just because he was an effective villain.
Yeah, for sure. And I like the weird like dynamic with Yusuke that he has because it's like at first they have like a respect for each other, and then obviously the whole Genkai thing happens, so Yusuke has a lot of anger about that. But he even says it like both of them have kind of a weird fixation on each other. Like Yusuke almost sees him as like a role model in a way, and he like Toguro almost sees him as like not a pupil or a child, but like he has an affection for him. It's hidden, he doesn't reveal it to him overtly, but Genkai even points it out when they're talking in front of the gates of hell.
He's also cool because he's like the only person he's like one of the few people during that arc who's like not putting up with the fucking rigged bullshit.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite scenes in the whole thing is when they're going up to one of the shitty black club guys, and he like does the slightest flick of his finger and his head just explodes.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
That's one of my favorite things in the world.
This arc also had Sakio, who was, I guess, like the main mastermind behind the tournament.
Yeah, well, he was kind of the mastermind of a lot of stuff because he kind of like set the stage for everything that happened during the Rescue Yukina arc. He was he was the owner of Team Toguro, so essentially he was the driving force of that arc. And then he had set the groundwork later for the Chapter Black arc because he was also trying to make a hold of Demon World. So like his DNA is spread all throughout the series, and it's just so little about him throughout it.
He also had that really weird like relationship with Kuwabara's sister, which was just, I felt like was like just to give her something to do for like an arc.
It was actually that was all that was filler. That wasn't in the manga.
Okay, that makes sense then. Because I was like, what does this have to do with anything? It's like they needed her to do something.
I still kind of like the idea of Shizuru having someone she was interested in, but like that was the wrong dude.
Yeah,
That's the wrong dude.
Then he dies, and she like runs after him. It's like no, it's like
Yeah, she's all sad about it. Like you don't even know the dude.
it's like this guy kind of was shitty. Like
I don't know. It's weird.
yeah, I don't know.
Um,
Anime, you know.
I don't know. I love the goofy accents in this show. Like with a Chew with his Australian accent.
Oh, accents and early anime dubbing are my favorite part. Like I was
I love it. I love
unrelated, but
it.
watching Rurouni Kenshin right now, the 96 one, when the freaking waitress at the restaurant shows up and she's got a Southern Belle accent. I'm like, what does this have to do with anything?
It's so funny. That's one of my favorite things about a lot of these older shows is they just really like go hard and fast with these accents. Like original Dragon Ball does it all the time.
Well,
Like
usually an old anime dubbing tactic used to be like, because in Japan they have different regions that have different dialects. Like I know, like particularly the Kansai region has like a specifically different dialect compared to like the rest of Japan.
yeah. Well, I
And
mean it's like that everywhere, you know.
but I know for dubbing, like in particular, they would for characters from that region because they were usually very different in the animes themselves. Like a notable one is Osaka from Azumanga Daioh. She's from Osaka, and in Osaka they have different way of speaking,
Mhm.
and to counteract that, they gave her like a Southern Belle accent, which is usually their way of whenever a character's from that region, they would do that. So it's funny when it happens in an old anime completely out of context, and you're like, okay, Southern Belle.
Yeah, well, even Comey Can't Communicate did that with the oh they're gonna find out that I'm just a country girl. Like
I think she's supposed to be from that region.
it's pretty much if it's an anime and they specify that a character is from like the sticks, that they're gonna have like a southern accent in the dub. Like
I mean, my favorite is still like Dragon Ball Super Android 13 and his country accent
yeah, with his trucker hat,
with his trucker hat.
which I'm pretty sure he was also played by Chuck Huber.
I need to check this now
I'm pretty
because
sure it is.
that's the elusive third Chuck Huber voice.
Yes, that's the hidden one.
Let's see, Super Android 13 voice suspense.
Yeah,
Um, Chuck Huber. Yep.
yeah, as I thought so. It's just one of those weird things. Like you don't realize it right away in that particular one. It's one of the few times where he does a pretty good job disguising his voice.
By doing a really stereotypical Texan accent.
Yes, I love the way that they handled that in a bridge. Though it was great.
Yeah, my trucker hat.
um, but yeah, I think Chew was probably my favorite in that arc. It's either him or Jin because I love what they did with Jin, where they gave him like these really weird like Irish.
Yeah,
I can't even like describe. I can't even say a line, dude, because he talks so fast with that fake Irish accent that you just can't even wrap your head around what he's saying. But that's part of what makes it so funny.
yeah, yeah. All the like some of the participants in the Dark Tournament were fun because they weren't dicks. Others were though, and it was like,
I quote Chew all the time though, because like whenever I'm in like say I go to like see a movie during the day or something, and then I come out, I always walk outside. I go, ah, crap and cripes, it's bright out here.
oh, you know what? The thing about Jin too that threw me off the most is he's got the that Irish accent, and then you look up who it is, and it's freaking Jerry Jewell.
Remind me who that is.
Barry the Chopper.
Oh wow. Oh okay. Yeah. Okay.
And
he's been in a bunch of stuff.
Probably most famously Kyo Soma in Fruit Baskets.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Really? Wow.
Yep.
I didn't even because he also played what's it, Suzaku in Yu Yu Hakusho. He was the lightning guy with the bird in the Four Saint Beasts arc.
Oh yeah, the orange head guy. Yep, that's him.
Yeah, with like he had like weird hair tentacles, but they just look like hair, so you don't even know they're tentacles until he says it.
Yeah, that is him because I remember he popped up on screen. I'm like, oh wow, Kyo finally lost it.
Yeah, right. There's just so much about Yu Yu Hakusho to like. There's so many like golden one-liners. That's part of the reason why Yusuke is one of my favorite anime protags because he's just the king of one-liners. I love it.
My favorite part about watching Yu Yu Hakusho was like I watched it not long after watching Fruit Baskets, and like it's hilarious how much like Fruit Baskets has so many of the classic Funimation actors. It was like you're literally doing a who's who. It's like, oh
Yeah,
hey, it's him again, and it's him again.
no kidding. It's just wild. And like one of my favorite things in the Dark Tournament is just the audience.
Mm.
Because
Oh
like
yeah,
I don't know if you ever like pause the screen like when it's on the like a big screen just a bunch of audience members and you just pause it and you look and you see some of the weirdest freaking character designs.
yeah.
And it
It's
was
kind of
not
like
okay.
I was gonna say it's kind of like watching original Dragon Ball. Whenever they're in a tournament, there's like the random just like dog people and like animal people just in the audience.
Yeah, there's like a random farmer with one eye. Like
Yeah, like just Toriyama was bored.
yeah, it's I don't know. It's just stuff from that era. I feel like these mangakas just went wild with that stuff, and I love it. Love every second of it.
Yeah, no, I love shit like that.
And then
Um,
there was the one demon in the audience who like they were going around interviewing people about what was going on. And he just randomly quotes Hemingway.
yeah, like just fun. I feel like that was a Funimation dub thing.
I'm trying to think. I think that might have actually been in the manga. I'm not 100% sure.
I'll have to double check. It's been a while since I've read it through.
Yeah, I read it somewhat recently. So I was reading it at the same time I was going through the Silmarillion again. So yeah, that was how I was breaking it up. Because the Silmarillion's a really hard read.
Yeah,
Um,
God, this show. It's funny how old the show is now, though.
and it doesn't like obviously you can tell watching it that it's an older show, but it doesn't feel that way when you get into it. Like, because there's a lot of shows that kind of have that kind of slower pace to it, if that makes sense.
No,
I
it
don't even know
does.
if that's the right terminology for it, but it just feels a lot faster than stuff from that era.
You know what also makes it feel old is the music. The music is good, but it's got that early '90s, like late '80s, like feel to it.
I love the music in Yu Yu Hakusho.
It's catchy, but it definitely has that early anime kind of style to it.
Yeah, it's still like every now and then I'll just throw on the OST and I'll just lose my mind listening to it.
I love the opening intro song, just like with Botan falling from the sky and then just like popping right into it.
Yeah, it just goes into like a super 80s jam and it just does not fit with the tone of the show at all, but it's just it's so perfect.
Most of those early animes like had like such goofy intros. I still can't get over the Veroni Kenshin one.
I was just about to ask you about that.
I was like listening, I'm like, why is this in English? What is this?
It's not any better in Japanese.
I bet it's not.
It's honestly like the English version of that is surprisingly accurate.
The music, I will say Rurouni Kenshin's music though, like in the backgrounds are pretty good, even though it uses like maybe like 4 tracks every episode.
Yeah, it works well with the series, but just that opening song, it's just like that like whiny kind of singing voice, and then you actually start listening to the lyrics and you're like, this is absolute nonsense.
Yep.
This makes no sense.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I listened to it and I was like, when I first heard, I'm like, because I was still already suspicious that I had a bootleg. I'm like, maybe this is a bootleg.
That's too funny. Oh man, because I remember the first time, like when my wife and I had started watching that old version of Rurouni Kenshin, and we actually sat and watched the opening theme song, and she just like looks at me like, "What the fuck are we watching?"
Oh, it's always every time I watch an anime, I always watch the intro at least once because you have to see the full thing once.
Yeah, and there's a lot of bangers for openers and stuff. But then there's also a lot of garbage.
Yeah. Inuyasha's like hit or miss. Like some of the intros are really good and some of them are not.
Mm-hmm.
Like the ones that where like they have Richard Ian Cox like talking during the intro, and I'm like, no, please don't do that.
Yeah, it's always weird when theme songs do that. The One Piece at the post time skip, the One Piece theme song does that too, and it's just really jarring. Like he and Blackbeard are just having a conversation in the middle of the song.
Yeah. I think they stopped doing intros for One Piece after a while and just started doing outros.
I think it's the other way around, or
Maybe
unless they changed it past the point where I am. But
I'm probably thinking of other way around.
because which actually was a good move on their part because they did like full length songs in the beginning and end.
Yeah.
Which is a little much, especially when there's like 4 minutes of recap after the song. So it's like you're only getting like 12 minutes of new episode every time.
Yeah.
But that is also just Toei of the time.
Still better than the Dragon Ball GT intro, American intro.
Yeah, well, I'd say the Kenshin one is better than that.
The Kenshin one is just stupid. The
Yeah.
freaking GT one is just like, what? No one asked for this.
It's nonsense.
Thankfully,
No.
Yu Yu Hakusho's intro is a bop.
Yeah, and I like some of the ending themes too.
Mm.
Actually, Stephanie Nadolny sings one of the ending ones. I forget which one. Oh, Sayonara Bye Bye. If you listen to that in English, you'll hear the Goku rasp when she's singing it.
That's true. So we've already talked about the reanimation. We should probably talk about the live action series a little bit, at least the what we've seen of it.
I saw the trailer dropped this past week, I think, right?
Yes. Yep.
Um,
because I saw they shared it over on the Novel Console Discord server. Shout out to Chris and Karen, by the way.
Oh, did they? I haven't been on there in a little bit. I have been listening to the show though, so I haven't forgotten you guys. Don't worry. But no, I'm really excited to see what happens with that. I mean, it's a hard thing. It's hard to get excited for it because there's been way more misses than hits.
I mean, yeah, because you got literally the One Piece is like the gold standard now, and then like everything else is just like you have to live up to this.
Yeah, but I mean, and I'm wondering how they're gonna handle it because I don't know. Did you watch the trailer, right?
I've seen it once. I gotta watch it again to get more of an opinion on it.
Me too, but I remember seeing the Chiguro brothers. Actually, their whole Dark Tournament team, I think, was in the trailer, which is really weird. It makes me wonder how they're gonna are they gonna introduce the whole team early, or are they gonna start the Dark Tournament? I don't know. Do you know how many episodes it's supposed to be?
I don't. I haven't looked into it super deep. I love this title, the promotional image they've posted of it.
Oh yeah.
My biggest thing is the casting looks pretty good. I'm not going to be able to take Kuwabara serious. There's just no way they can pull that look off in real life.
No, that's the thing about live action anime is a lot of these things don't work in real life. The costumes and stuff, the hairstyles.
They don't. But then once again, One Piece is like the weird exception that gets it right.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is when you have the passion behind it and you stay true to the characters. That's like I said in the previous episode, you can change the story around, you can change some of the rules, you can do stuff like that. But as long as the characters are true to the original, then the core will still be there, and that's what's really important.
That actually, following that up, that actually was a pretty interesting thing for me because I was watching. As I said, I'm watching Rurouni Kenshin right now. It's interesting to me how many things they changed for the live action.
Yeah, well, it's like I said, they kind of just smushed a bunch of stuff from that first season together to make that movie.
Yeah, because they completely they changed the whole Yahiko joining after instead they had him join, he was already there.
Yeah,
kind of a thing.
Which kind of makes sense. I mean, they kind of touch on it a little bit, just being the descendant of samurais, when he's talking in the live action, but that's really all you get from it. And then Sanosuke kind of equally they kind of cut out his whole backstory. And
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it'll come up in the next movies. I don't know. I haven't seen them yet, but
Yeah. I will say though, I still did enjoy the live action Rurouni Kenshin film. That was very well done.
that was extremely well made. I mean, definitely, it's hard to really say much bad about it because they just did so many things right. Um, but we'll see what happens with the Yu Yu Hakusho one. I really hope it does well. I really want it. Not to necessarily meet expectations, because expectations for live action anime is pretty low.
Yeah.
I'd like them to go above and beyond, but
I'd like them to be on the level of at least live action Rurouni Kenshin.
Yeah, for sure. Or
you don't have to be One Piece. Like that's going to be hard to beat. But
and that's the thing, though, is like that's where I'm kind of up in the air about it, because I don't know, like what. Like I know it's technically a Netflix original, but obviously it was made in Japan.
Mm.
So it's like I'm wondering, is it going to be like the same studio that made the live action Full Metal? Because I wasn't hearing very good things about that.
Yeah, I've never seen that one, so I can't comment.
I started the first one when it first came out. I don't even think there was an English version of it yet, but I had started it. I mean, it was fine-ish. Like it wasn't Dragon Ball Evolution, and it wasn't like Netflix Death Note, but it still wasn't on the level.
Yeah, because like when I think like Japanese made live action stuff, I mean, before I saw Rurouni Kenshin, the only real one I remembered that I remember liking was the live action Ace Attorney.
Yeah, and that's technically a video game movie, right?
Yes, that's true. Yeah, technically, yep.
So I mean, and some of those do well too. I mean, the Mortal Kombat, at least the first original Mortal Kombat.
Oh, the original one's just cheesy as hell, but great.
It's cheesy, but it's well done for the time. And then the new one that came out a couple of years ago. I mean, I'm sure people have their problems with like the diehard Mortal Kombat fans, but I thought it was great.
I mean, it's good. I think more people just prefer the doofiness of Mortal Kombat,
which is understandable. But I mean, different strokes for different folks.
Mm. The CGI Resident Evil movies are pretty good from what I remember. The live action ones not so much.
I think I saw bits and pieces of one of the live action ones years and years and years ago. I don't remember like anything from it though.
There was like 6 too many films in that series.
Yeah, they really went crazy with that for a while, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, the first one's not even good, but at least the first one's kind of in a cheesy way entertaining. Everyone after that is like this just kept going.
Yeah, well, I definitely like to touch on some of the live action video game adaptations as well at some point.
No, they're worth checking out, some of them.
And then I'm sure we'll end up covering the live action Yu Yu Hakusho once it comes out. I definitely intend to watch it. We'll see how it goes, but
yeah. Oh, speaking of video game adaptions this isn't a live action adaptation, it's a anime adaptation, but did you see the Scott Pilgrim anime just dropped today?
Yes, I did. I actually, this morning when I was, getting my stuff ready for work, I happened to see that pop up. It's 8 episodes?
8 episodes, I think, as of now. I'm not sure if that's total or the entire thing, but I'm looking forward to checking that out.
I have to imagine that they're going to do, because they were only like 20-minute episodes, right? Like 24-minute episodes.
I think, and they're supposedly covering the entire comic, although they're changing things up from what I've heard a little bit. So
yeah, I was gonna say I don't see how they could, even though the series is only like 6 volumes long, I still don't see how they could cover all of that in 8 20-minute episodes.
Yeah, I mean they could barely cover it all in a feature-length film. So
yeah, and they still missed a lot of stuff. And they did that movie did well. That's what we'll have to do at some point too. Is the movie?
The movie did well critically, not so much commercially, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I still say it's one of those ones that it's definitely worth watching.
Yeah, honestly, there isn't really a bad version of Scott Pilgrim. We'll have to do a Scott Pilgrim episode at some point.
Definitely, we could even make it a big mashup. We'll talk about the show, the movie, the video game.
Yeah. We'll have to do that. We'll have to do Ruby at some point too. I got to finish Ruby though.
Yeah. I watched the most recent season towards the beginning of the year. They did like an Alice in Wonderland thing in the newest season. It was pretty cool.
I gotta watch that, and I gotta watch the anime adaptation of that because apparently that's pretty good.
I did watch that too. I mean, it was definitely cool, but I don't know. Maybe it's just because I've been watching the series from the beginning for them to go all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah, that's true.
And then kind of do like their own little spin-off of what already existed. It just, I don't know. The story didn't catch me the way I wanted it to.
That's true.
But I mean, that could just be because I've been watching since it came out.
Yeah, no, that's understandable.
You know, I've seen those early seasons so many times, just showing it to other people and rewatching it myself. At this point, it's like I don't need to see those early episodes again.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Anything else you want to cover on Yu Yu Hakusho, or?
Do you ever play any of the video games?
I played the Dark Tournament one on PS2.
That one was pretty good. That was a pretty decent fighter. It had a lot of Budokai vibes to it.
It did. Doesn't look so great anymore. I'll give it. I will say that, but gameplay wise, it's still pretty fun.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it if you enjoy the series. Although when you're going through the story mode, Toguro is so fucking hard to beat. I'm not even sure if I did it. I think I might have just gotten frustrated and never went back to it.
There's actually a Yu Yu Hakusho fighting game on 3DO of all things.
Really?
Yeah, I imported it over, but my 3DO doesn't want to play my copy, so I'm gonna have to either look into getting a different 3DO or just emulate it at this point. But it looks very Ultimate Battle 22ish.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I looked at it, I'm like, this doesn't look good, but it's kind of funny that there's a Yu Yu Hakusho game on 3DO.
Yikes! I've also played a couple of the GBA games. The
Isn't there a tactical one?
Yes, that's actually the best one I've played. The best Yu Yu Hakusho game I've played out of all of them.
I'm gonna have to hunt that down at some
It-
point because
It's definitely worth it. I think because it's tournament tactics, so it's the dark tournament story. And every level is you get up to a 5-person team, and you start off with just the basic 5-man team that you get from the series. Yusuke, Kuwabara, Kurama, Hiei, and the Masked Fighter. I wonder who that is.
yeah.
And then later on, you can unlock, I think, I'm trying to remember exactly who it was. So there's one of them that I'm not 100% sure on, but I know Yukina is playable. She's a white mage.
Understandable.
Chu, you get Chu, Jin, Toa, I think that's his name, or Toya, the ice guy for the ninja team, and I think Rinku, but I could be wrong about that. I'm not sure if he's the last one or not. But it's definitely worth the time to play it. I will say, when you do go to play it, you're gonna want to skip through a lot of dialogue because there's a lot of dialogue at certain parts. Yeah. But it's easy. You could just mash through it, and then you could just jump right into the next level.
I'll have to look into that because I was curious about picking that one up. It's just GBA collecting is something I'm into, and then I'm not into at times.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see right now. I'll go on the old eBay.
Yeah, I've actually been thinking about playing that one again lately because it's a good one for you to just you could just pick up and do a level real quick, and then you can put it down.
Oh, $15.
Oh, that's definitely worth $15. I think I got my copy at a retro. It wasn't Bowser's Basement. It was what the hell is it? Land of Electronics in Bridgewater.
Yep. So there's like 50-50 chance this is a bootleg, but yeah, I'll give it a shot. Why not? So yeah, I'll see when that comes out.
Yeah, it's definitely worth playing. I had a lot of fun with it. I've gone through it a few times since I got it, and it definitely lives up.
I'm sure. I loved when those anime games actually were like interesting with their ideas. Like because there were so many fighting games like at the time.
Yeah, just anime games get so oversaturated with fighting games, and most of them are barely passable fighting games in the first place. So
Yeah, I mean,
it gets old.
Budokai is a good game, but as an actual competitive fighter, it's not that good of a fighter.
No, and like trying to play any of like the arena Dragon Ball games online was just a you're fighting a losing battle with that one.
I I still say like my most favorite moment I've had recently playing a Dragon Ball game was me and Schnickerman were at a retro we met at Retro World Expo earlier this year,
Mhm.
and they had a TV set up with Budokai 3 playing, and we played
Wow.
one match and we were just like, what the fuck is happening? Like, it is such a confusing game to play.
Jeez.
Like, we're just flying around trying to do stuff.
Well, Budokai 3, like, I know we're getting like way off topic, but Budokai 3 is one of those ones that like I understand why people like it as much, and I played the shit out of it too. It was one of the games I played the most, but it's honestly like one of the more difficult ones to get into. I honestly feel like the second one is the most accessible, and in my opinion, the best out of those three games. Like as a fighting game, because the third one kind of did away with a lot of the inputs, and that was
Yeah.
part of what made it fun, like in the first couple of games. And when they added whatever that ultimate mode and like the Dragon Rush and that shit, it just kind of turned it into like a rock paper scissors game, and
Yeah.
that really killed it for me. It gets really frustrating because especially when you're fighting computers, because they just fucking mash that ultimate
Mm.
mode, and you can't. There's no like knockback when they're in the ultimate mode unless you're also in ultimate mode. And I know I'm rambling on about it, but it's just one of those things that gets me about that game.
Honestly, to me, the best Dragon Ball fighting game on PS2 is this is probably unpopular, but it's Super Dragon Ball Z.
No, I definitely agree with you there. I used to have a copy of it, but I think I left it at a friend's house, and I don't talk to him anymore.
Um,
Well, not
I
because
don't.
he's like a bad dude. We just kind of drifted apart. But
Yeah, I don't think that
um,
one's incredibly expensive because some of those Dragon Ball games aren't that expensive. I always forget that fucking Budokai Tenkaichi 3 is fucking that's like a $300 game now.
is it really?
It's up there. Actually, it's probably gone down since.
Well,
Let me
it's
check game.
definitely it's one of those ones that's really fondly remembered in the fan base.
It
Um,
is. Let me check this real quick because it's actually pretty funny. Um,
because I
let's
still
see.
have my copy of it.
I have one as well. Okay. Okay. It's not 300 anymore. So it's 168.
That's
It's
it's still
still a
pretty
lot.
pricey.
So it's
Wow.
fun. Out of my PS2 collection, it is the third most valuable PS2 game I own.
Wow. Really?
Fourth. I'm sorry, fourth behind Dot Hack, Part 4, Xenosaga 3, and Silent Hill 3.
Wow. That's crazy. It's one of those things where like every now and then I'll like hear that a game that I have is actually like super rare and expensive. I'm like, really? I've had that for years. I never even gave it a second thought. Like I have
Yeah.
like isn't Pokemon Coliseum like wicked expensive?
Oh yeah, and XD if you have them.
Well, I have Coliseum and I've had that for God knows how long, and it's in Xander's room right now because he's got the GameCube hooked up. But like, I never even gave a second thought to that game, and I've just had it forever.
Okay, so Super Dragon Ball Z right now. Well, you can get the case for $17.
The case alone is worth $20. That's
uh,
hilarious.
okay, so you can get one no manual for 18.
Hmm.
So it's like around $20 right now. There's some guy selling the case for 17 though.
That's hilarious.
Uh, that's one of those deceptively written like listings where it's like Super Dragon Ball Z game manual, no game case, and it's like what?
Yeah. It's like, okay, so you just sent me a little booklet. All right.
You're sending you the case and book, essentially no game.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well,
some people
okay.
don't read those things and they'll just hit the button and then it shows up and they get mad.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, we'll have to do an episode on at least Dragon Ball games because
Mm.
there's a lot we can say about that.
No, there's a there's anime games in general. There's so much to say.
Yeah, I think there's only a couple of exceptions, but I mean, for the most part, I've only played like post 2000s games,
Mm.
like pretty much from like the first Budokai onward. There are a couple of exceptions. I have Legendary Super Warriors for the Game Boy Color, and I have played Dragon Power, which is a very bad game.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, there's a sandwich orgy in it.
yeah, no kidding. Oh, apparently, if you get far enough in the game and collect the Dragon Balls, you can wish for the uncensored version of that, where it's
Yeah.
panties instead of sandwiches.
Which is such a
that's
weird.
that's
weird
one of the
thing.
wishes you can get. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great Dragon Ball games. There's also a lot of garbage games, but I mean, I don't differentiate too much. I'll play them all at least once.
The one thing I'll give Inuyasha credit for was it had a full-on turn-based RPG in the 2000s.
Oh, like a JRPG.
Yep, Secret of the Cursed Mask for PS2.
Yeah.
Shameless plug. Shout out to Rick from Pixel Project Radio. He may have done an episode on that game that I may have guessed it on.
But yeah, Attack of the Saiyans was good too. I still need to beat that.
Mm.
I think I'm
Yeah,
pretty close.
Yeah, there's that. I got to finish Kakarot. Kakarot's been really fun. People really love or hate that game, I've noticed.
I mean, I think it's fine. It definitely could have been more than it was.
Some people just can't get behind the combat.
I mean, it's the same as Xenoverse.
Oh,
They
it's
pretty
not
much since Tenkaichi 3, that's been like the go-to kind of combat, the arena fighter where you fly around while you're fighting. It's been the same for like a decade at this point since
Yes.
Raging Blast.
Some people just don't really care for it.
I mean, I can't necessarily blame them because it does get old after a while. That's why I have a weird relationship with Xenoverse too. Because every now and then I'll just get like a weird craving to play it, and I'll play it for like a week, and then I won't touch it for a year.
Yeah, no, I get that with certain games.
But like, I still haven't unlocked Super Saiyan Blue on it yet, even though it's been out forever. But
yeah, that's true. We should probably wrap this up because we've gone completely off the rails.
All right.
I guess final thoughts on Yu Yu Hakusho?
Watch it.
Yeah.
Very good show. Watch the dub. The dub is definitely worth it, even if you're a subby.
Yeah. It's probably like to me, like it's probably like the peak of classic Funimation in a lot of ways.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it definitely it came out at a point where like they were still fairly new to the whole process, but they had improved enough where it didn't have that super janky like Ginyu Saga delivery with their lines and stuff. Like it worked a lot better than it had any right to at the time. And the jokes that they wrote for it are just perfect. I may rewatch it soon just because I've been thinking about it lately, and it's one of those ones that I feel like it's a lot easier for me to go back and rewatch Yu Yu Hakusho than it is for me to go back and rewatch Dragon Ball, just because there's less of it and the pace is better and it just works.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Now, I definitely recommend it. It's a fun watch. It goes by surprisingly quick, like for over 100 episode show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty entertaining throughout the entire thing. The ending kind of takes a nosedive, but it's only like the last like handful of episodes, so it's really you're not missing. You're not really. It's not that much of a slog to get through the end. And
no, I think people overhate that last arc. I understand why people dislike it, but I definitely think it gets a lot more hate than it deserves.
It's kind of just like it's not that it's bad. It's just it follows up such a great like couple of arcs, and then it's just kind of like
Yeah. I definitely. I feel like we didn't talk enough about Chapter Black because that's like my favorite arc, but I'm sure it'll come up again eventually. Maybe we'll talk about it when the live action gets there, if it gets there. We'll see.
If it makes it. Yeah, that's the big like caveat there.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the thing about when you make a series. You might get a Cowboy Bebop. Who knows?
yeah. I will say, like, to if you want to watch this show, though, I will say the easiest way to watch it is probably the Funimation. Crunchyroll has the entire show on their platform. Half of it is on Hulu.
Yeah, I don't know why Hulu did that. They had the whole show for a very long time, and then they just got rid of half of it for some reason.
Yeah, which is really funny because when me and Alex were watching it, we started watching it on Hulu. We got halfway through. We got right to where it ended, and then because it was in my favorites, it just played the next thing in my favorites. So then it immediately cut to the first episode of Inuyasha, and we were like, "What?"
Further proving my theory. Just saying.
Yeah. For people watching it, Crunchyroll is probably the easiest way to stream it right now. The DVD box sets aren't that expensive either, so if you want to get those, they're relatively available.
I still need to get the last one. I've only had the first three forever. I just never got around to getting the last one.
Yeah. They don't really play it on TV anymore, as far as I know.
Not for a long time, but hey, when the dub for the new version comes out, I'm sure they'll bring it back.
Yep, that's for sure. Yeah, other than that though, not much to add. Any last thoughts or
No, I think that pretty much covers it.
all right. Sweet. So at the time of this recording, I'd say I'll actually no, I don't need to make an announcement. I don't even know where I'm going anymore. I'm going insane. It's fine.
That's all right.
Ending, right. So once again, guys, thanks for joining us over on Geek Addicts. You can find Geek Addicts every Tuesday on the GNC feed. And if you'd like to follow us some more, you can find all of our links at linktree/the Barber Who Games. And if you want to join in on the conversation, you can come join us over at the GNC Podcast Network Discord server. We have plenty of conversations on GNC, Geek Addicts, and the 3DO experience, along with anime, gaming, all sorts of topics. And with that, guys, we will see you all next time.
Have a good one.